Hey everyone, Shorupan here. This is the InstaCrypto purchase Q&A session. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I just said that, it is essentially it's going to be a series of short videos where I address the newest app release, which is called InstaCrypto, formerly known as InstaCrypto Purchase. And I diagnose the different elements, the different interaction points, the different use cases, how people will be benefiting from the application, and the concept and how it manifests itself. I did do a previous video on kind of why InstaCrypto Purchase. That was a much longer form video talking about how we got to the point where we needed to create something like this, how the vault evolving into what it is today as a back-end technology would allow InstaCrypto Purchase to flourish as a direct-to-consumer technology. So if you're interested in the why, the reasoning behind InstaCrypto Purchase, and more importantly, what the limitations are in the current kind of OTC market that makes InstaCrypto Purchase very attractive, although I probably will be talking about some of that in this video series, then also go watch that the why InstaCrypto Purchase video because that gives you kind of the narrative, the storyline that brought us here. But these next several videos are just going to be kind of really concise executions as to different elements of the app that we're releasing immediately, like in the next day or so. So today, in this video, I'm reiterating in short form what I reiterated in the top form. I'm in long form in the previous video, which was about 20 minutes, which is why InstaCrypto Purchase. So it's very simple. The number one demand right now in the crypto space, and has been since crypto really has proliferated itself, and is probably going to maintain itself to be the number one demand for the foreseeable future, is obviously getting people crypto, and that function itself is the most significant demand. And so that's really, kind of a flabbergasting concept from the perspective of like a normal currency, because it would be something like saying the number one opportunity in US dollars is getting people US dollars. Well, that's obviously not the case. And so that kind of goes to show you how early we are in the adoption of cryptocurrency, or if you want to say a particular cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, how extremely early we are. But because of that, you have what you would call bottlenecks. And of course, if you're a global exchange customer, you've experienced a tremendous amount of bottlenecks, but that's not unique to global exchange. If you're a customer of any platform who's trying to navigate in this extremely complex space, you've experienced bottlenecks. And those bottlenecks are always tied to one of two things: the jurisdiction that you, the customer, are in, or the jurisdiction that the company is in, so it's jurisdictional. And the other bottleneck would be the method of payment that's used to be able to transact the crypto out. So in other words, yeah, the company or the exchange, like global exchange, is willing to sell you crypto, but how are you getting them the fiat currency? What's the mechanism of doing that? What is the way to measure, economics, like the flow of money there? How do you maintain that? How do you do KYC? All of that. So essentially, payment method and jurisdiction are the limitations. That is not unique to one company. That's not even unique to a country. Every crypto vendor, everyone selling crypto, has those limitations. And so the way that you navigate around those limitations is you choose to be limited. And what I mean by that is you say, okay, I'm going to focus on a country. I'm going to go into that country. It's probably my native country, and I'm going to develop a method for selling crypto with one payment method in that country. So if you use my home country of Canada, you would say, well, you could do credit card payments for crypto, you could do e-transfer for crypto, you could do wire transfer, bank transfer for crypto, and then you would essentially develop a process. And all of the crypto vendors around the world, whether you're talking about the behemoths, Coinbase, etc., or you're talking about your friend next door that's selling, started his own little crypto ATM business, are making those decisions. And what you're going to realize is it literally doesn't matter which one of those two opposites of size and scale you fall on. Your ease of getting new payment methods and new jurisdictions is not that much more simple just because you scale up. And you can see how limited Coinbase is in terms of jurisdictional use as well as payment methods. Now, the ones that they do operate in, the markets they do operate in, which is primarily United States and primarily via ACH bank transfer, they're exceptional at. And I actually expect that to be the case with most vendors that are focusing on a particular jurisdiction and focusing on a particular payment method. But for them to scale horizontally would be nearly impossible. And I'll tell you why I know that: because they would have done it if they could. They're not short of resources or ideas or brilliant people to do it. It's literally a very difficult thing to do. And so what we decided was in order to tackle this, and by the way, obviously, as a as operating global exchange, we've run into those limitations. We've had, the painstaking experiences of kind of managing that literally it's on a day-by-day basis. You don't know when a payment method is going to stop working or when it's going to start working, or when your payment method partner, a la the bank or payment processor or whatever it is going to not be happy with what you're doing, when one of the customers might be using funds that weren't properly cleared. It's all extraordinarily nuanced and kind of contextual to that transaction. And because of that, we've definitely endured, or even worse, we've had to make people endure the manifestation of this limitation. And so there's no solving that. I mean, I think that's this main sentiment of my previous video. It's not getting solved. I'll tell you why. Because once you're in crypto, everything is gravy. Like anything is possible, literally. But getting into crypto involves a handshake between you and the crypto vendor, where his hand is in crypto and your hand is in fiat currency, and which means it's actually a three-way handshake. And there's a third-party guy who has to also agree, and that obviously is predicated on the country and the payment method. And that guy has everything to lose by being part of this handshake. See, the crypto exchange or the vendor has a lot to gain because this is his business model. You have a lot to gain. You have potentially financial sovereignty to gain. You might just have a little bit of speculative, inertia, like a desire to gain. That guy has the third party guy, whether that's a bank or a payment process, payment application like PayPal or whatever it is, that guy has everything to lose. He's clearly built a very successful business in the fiat world. And you are probably not his biggest customer. And so, or even that exchange is not his biggest customer, which means that he is risking, every time he's doing this handshake, everything he has going on in the fiat world to participate in what is at the best, maybe a lucrative transaction, but definitely not a volume transaction. If you think about a bank, why would a bank even have interest in something like this? Well, when you put it like that, it makes a lot of sense as to why this turns out to be very difficult. And so the way that I see that amending itself, and it's kind of like a self-amending process, is that the relationship between those three people develops, and actually the exchange and the customer do become valuable to that institution. But the exchange and the customer are deploying all of their kind of capital, literally, figuratively, to do that. Like saying, we'll work with you, we'll do KYC, Mr. Fiat partner, we'll do all of these things, we'll leave money with you, please, we'll get regulated, we'll do all of these things, we'll operate in a compliant fashion. So you can't dispose of that much capital in 20 different fiat partners. You can maybe do that in one or two, and that explains the limitation. And by that definition, it's not changing. So what's going to happen and what's happening is you're seeing the proliferation of vendors, and vendors in the crypto space. I'm going to use a different word as in the next video, but in this video, I'm talking about exchanges, OTC desks, miners, anybody selling crypto. I mean, it could be your best friend selling crypto. They function as a vendor. So what a vendor what I see now and what we saw that inspired InstaCrypto to become what it is today is essentially the proliferation at a fast pace of vendors. Because the startup cost of becoming a vendor is almost nothing, right? And so to become a vendor, it's very easy, or a liquidity provider, whatever it is. And so now there's so many vendors all working probably with at most one fiat partner. And that right there functions as the competitive advantage. And so their customer base they're going to go after are the people that prioritize that fiat gateway, whatever they're using, right? And so you have essentially many of those. And so global exchange is one of those, as the way that you guys know global exchange today. The InstaCrypto app is essentially turning that on its head. And I'm not saying that it's the most foolproof plan. I'm saying it's the only plan that seems to get as close to what people want as possible. And what I mean by that is, okay, well, if you have a proliferation of vendors that all are developing meaningful relationships with payment methods, that then creates an archetype for a customer base, then the best formula for somebody who that doesn't have the clarity about that vendor, like what I mean, like if I was to example it out, is like you need to create a platform for people to be able to discover and interact with all vendors predicated not on the vendor, because nobody really cares about the vendor, predicated on what the customer is capable of or wanting to participate in, what's the nature of that transaction. In other words, you need something like Google Maps for the OTC space. You need something like, I'm in New York City and I'm hungry, and that's all I really know, and maybe I could say my budget is $20 for a meal, and that's all I really know, and I could keep querying that I could keep filtering that query, and I still don't know where I want to eat, and that's hence why I'm here. But I want one place that satisfies all my potentials, and clearly, by virtue of me being in New York City, I shouldn't have to think about all of the restaurants in the world, or even all the restaurants in the United States, or even all the restaurants in New York State. I should only be thinking about ones there, and then you further query that. So in the crypto space, right now, people build relationships with vendors, like sign up for a Binance account, sign up for a global exchange account, sign up for a XYZ account, and then they try to work within the domain of that vendor. And InstaCrypto is essentially saying, we're agnostic, and we will essentially get you as a user to the vendor you want. And because we have the software a la the vault that I talked about last time, being able to kind of mitigate these transactions, you can engage also with your vendor of choice based on the requirements you have all in one app. So that is why I see why InstaCrypto as a mobile application that we're releasing to essentially address this incredibly diverse and complicated problem.